right, so earlier this week we promised that we were going to answer as many questions as we could from our questions on Instagram. And if you're watching us on YouTube, these questions were provided by some of our people that watch us on Instagram. So if you're like, hey, I was on YouTube and I never saw a question, these come from Instagram. So if you're from YouTube and you're like, I want to ask questions too, maybe we'll put one up for you one day. The first one was people wanted to know where we're from. We're actually from the very far western tip of Kentucky, a little county called Ballard, and our community is Barlow. And if you're familiar with Kentucky, where the Ohio and the Mississippi River meet, is the confluence of the two rivers. We're just about 3 or 4 miles north of that confluence, so that's where we're located. I thought one of the questions on here was, why are you harvesting at 19%? And actually a couple of people asked that. So the reason we harvest whenever it's still really too wet to carry it off is, one, we want to get our beans in the field quick as possible, and two, we just want to get our wheat out of the field as fast as possible. Once wheat is mature and you're getting rain on it, every time you get an additional rain, once it's mature, the quality goes down. And what happens when the quality goes down, if it gets too bad, they'll completely reject it, or even if they don't reject it, they begin to dock you. So say a test weight is the amount of weight in a bushel, and wheat is supposed to average about 60, and if it is under 57, they begin to dock you, per point of weight below that 56 or whatever arbitrary number they choose to pick, and the docks can get pretty steep. And at a certain point, like at 53, they'll just say, hey, you can't bring it in here anymore. So the faster we can get it out, the better. We got a lot of wheat to cut. We just want it out of the field. And then the faster we get our beans planted, the better they yield at the end. Every day that we're getting them in later now, our yield is being reduced a little bit. So the faster we can get them in, the more money we're going to make. The question is, how much nitrogen are you using for wheat? So we personally use 135 units. People are going to be like, oh my, that is a ton of nitrogen. We feel like the wheat, if you're really trying to grow really good wheat, it takes a lot of nitrogen. And I would like to tell anybody that, if you're in a wheat management program to try to bust out high yields, along with that nitrogen, you need sulfur, and you need to blend it at least 9-to-1. Probably like to see it 8-to-1, 8 parts nitrogen and 1 part sulfur. But if you're like, it's getting a little steep, go 9-to-1. But the sulfur will actually, it will actually give your nitrogen a little bit of stabilization. The microbes that are breaking your nitrogen down to make it usable for your wheat will feed on the sulfur first. And then once they've, gone through that molecule, then they'll go to nitrogen. Your nitrogen will hang in with you a little longer, and the wheat will use it much more efficiently. The question is, what's your thoughts about farming in Europe? I have limited European knowledge. I know that the environmental standards that you are putting up with over there aren't here yet, but I hear they're scary, and I would think that it'd be very difficult to be profitable in the United States with such harsh environmental standards. So my heart goes out to you guys. I don't know exactly how you are set up over there, but I can't imagine it's fun farming under those type of stringent standards. The question is, and we get several of these, we'd like to work with you, or do you hire H2A? Actually, we are considering H2A for this coming season. We're not set up for it yet, and we haven't applied, but that's something we are looking to do. We do hire occasionally. Right now we do have a full crew, but we do occasionally hire, and the way I hire usually is whenever I have the need and the right message comes through to me is how I pick it. So, I mean, with H2A guys, it's probably going to be the same way, or I'm going to use a friend that's already got a crew and allow that crew to pick the guys that are going to come here and farm with us. So, I don't know, South Africans or Mexicans or what we're going to use, but there probably will be H2A workers here in the future. So this is from Kelly Griggs, one of my friends in Tennessee. She says, "What percentage is your wheat damaged?" So we started on May 28th, and I don't know, we cut 3 or 4 days. Wheat quality was before all the rain really came in here on us on this mature crop. We were cutting 60.5 bushel test weights and really high quality, not much damage, less than 1% vomitoxin, less than 1% damage. And then as we've cut into the rain, today we were taking our loads off with about a 57 test weight, 1.5% damage. So we don't need another rain on this crop. The next rain is the one that we begin to take the severe docks from. Favorite brand of tractor? Well, is there another brand than that? It says, favorite farm or Instagram account. Has to be Farmer Dan. He's one of my favorite guys to watch on here. He's also a friend of mine. He's from Texas. If you had never found him on here, go look him up. He's just a great guy to watch. Most of the time positive, and he's he's fun to watch, and I identify with him, so that's my favorite Instagram farmer. And now I'll go with a question from Farmer Dan. Farmer Dan says, when or how many times does Clayton say, when are you going to get a fence? Well, Farmer Dan, Clayton, right after you text with that question, Clayton said, when's the fence coming? So, if you're a fence fan, we will actually have one here in wheat this season, a 8T, which is their tracked, I assume, 8 class combine is going to come demo with us one day. So you'll get to see the X9 run along with the Fendt 8T. That'll be a pretty neat test. And hey, Clayton, your Fendt's coming soon.
You'll be excited to hear.
This was a pretty cool question. It says, does any of the grain produced on the farm go to make Kentucky bourbon? So actually, a lot of our grain produced here on the farm does not. It either goes to Obion, Tennessee to make ethanol and DGA, which is a feed product, or it goes down the river to the Gulf of Mexico and overseas. If you want to know where your Kentucky bourbon is coming from, it's there's 2 or 3 farms that are really close friends of mine. The Halcomb family, the Peterson family, and there's 1 or 2 more. But if you want to look up the farms that are producing the bourbon, you can look those 2 farms up. They're both on Instagram and TikTok. There's some other really good ones that supply the bourbon industry too. But those are 2 of my close friends that are actually producing it and are on Instagram, and you can look, and they're great, high quality farms, humongous operations, and and you can look and see what they're into if you go search them out. So the question is, do you forward contract your grain? And yes, a lot of our grain is, we watch the markets, and we also have a couple of grain marketers that work with us, and we use those guys, and along with our own knowledge and thoughts, and we try to book a big percentage of the crop. You know, I'm even selling right now on next year's crop. So the wheat that will be produced on our farm in 2025, I'm already selling contracts for. And, you know, I mean, sometimes you're never going to hit the high on the grain market. What we try to do is just sell small percentages at a time. We see a market rally, and, you know, it's like we usually start about a year out. And when we see those marketing opportunities, when wheat is rallying, we're selling on those days. And that way, whenever harvest comes, and you know, you need to move the crop out because you got the next crop coming by August. You're not sitting there struggling. Should I sell? Should I hold? Our crop's sold and it's being delivered, and we're logistically ready for the next crop that's coming in August. This is from a great Kentucky farmer who probably knows better than I do, but he says, how deep are you planting your double crop beans? Well, we try to hit a happy medium. I would like to see them around an inch to an inch and a half, but in our with our combine tracks and auger wagon tracks and all that stuff, you know, we set the planter with pretty heavy back pressure, and you'll find them anywhere from 2 inches to an inch. And you know, a lot of it's dependent on the hard spots in the field. I'm sure you deal with the same thing. So we would like to see that sweet spot, 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches. So they're definitely not all there though. Some are on top. Says, what is your favorite John Deere tractor? So he knows I'm a John Deere fan. The 8000 series. It's we have 2 of those old tractors. Both of them have over 10,000 hours. They've provided great service for us with very limited breakdowns, and just overall cost of ownership super low. I think about what we gave for them, around 80,000 when they were brand new, is exactly what they're worth today. So we put that many hours of use on them, and they're still worth exactly what we paid for them. It's hard not to love an investment like that.
Good heck.
Favorite variety or brand of wheat? So there's several varieties I like. I'm still a fan of Branson. It's super old, and it's it's an unprotected variety, but it'll still yield right there with anything. I'm a fan of Agramax 505. I think that's a great variety of wheat. I know they've got a couple more that is good as well. 505 is kind of like, I always buy some in certified every year. And then Pioneer makes some great wheats, and we usually buy some of their certified varieties as well. R59 is one that's a Pioneer wheat that we don't like. We like a low straw yield because we're not trying to bale our straw, and we're trying to double crop back into it. So one of the things we look for, along with a good quality grain and a good high yield, is low straw yield. So we're looking for a short statured plant that will produce a good grain quality. And when we find that, we usually will stick with those varieties. We don't go out seeking a lot of different varieties. We'll buy some certified. I'll fill the rest in with Branson, and that's basically what I go with. The question is, what's a good moisture and test weight for wheat? So 13 is really what the granary wants. Anything over 13 they dock you on. they'll take it anywhere under 13 without a dog. You're just losing money due to lack of moisture. They want to see that 60 bushel or 60 pound test weight. That just indicates a really high quality on your wheat. That's what the granary wants to see. Your merchandisers are super happy when you're bringing 60 pound test weight wheat in there, because then he can blend. When you're bringing the 56 in, he can blend your 60 with your 56, and he doesn't lose any money, but you do. So he really likes that. It says, how is the X9 performing in wheat, and what are your settings? So the X9 we've been pretty happy with. We've had one or two issues, actually not with the combine, but with the head. The head has ripped a draper belt off yesterday, which that's the second time that head has failed on the center draper. So I think the head has maybe 300 hours, and the center draper belt's been ripped off twice. That's a weak point of that head. Overall, the X9, we're really tickled with what it'll do in the field. It's an amazing machine. For the settings, I don't know exactly where Dad's got them set at today, but when I set it the very first day, I had my concave at 22, my air at about 1050, my top screen was on 21 or 22, my bottom screen was on 8. Let's see, my rotor was about 850. So that'll give you a good ballpark of where to set it. And then it's up to you. Make sure your small wire concaves are installed. That's important in any of these combines. If you want a really high quality wheat sample, you can't use round bar concaves or big large wires. You need small wires. It's critical for a clean, nice, high test weight wheat sample. How do you dry the wheat? Do you do it on your own farm, or do you allow a granary to do it for you for money? And we actually dry our own wheat on our own farm. We have a dryer for corn. It's just a continuous flow. It can also be used for wheat. And basically what we do is we bring it in there, and the wheat is dried to about 14. It needs to be delivered to a granary at 13. But if we bring it out of the dryer at 14, it'll automatically usually air dry a point on its own, and we just cool it with a fan once it's in the dry bin. And it'll, after it comes out of the dryer, actually be run through a grain cleaner to take a little bit more of the chaff out to create a higher sample, quality sample for the granary. And so yeah, we don't dry 100% of our bushels if they're coming out of the field dry. Of course, you can't dry it anymore, and it just wastes electricity to drag it through the system, so we just carry it straight to the granary at that point. It says, how do you dress down wheat? So everybody always has a little bit of down wheat. It's just something you deal with if you raise wheat. I will say that if you're willing to spend the $11 an acre, Palisade by Syngenta is a phenomenal product. It does exactly what it'll say it'll do. It will not increase your yield. It will make your wheat greener. So like if you're looking for, if you're competing with your neighbor on the road side by side, and you've put as much nitrogen onto your wheat as you can, but you want a super green crop, spray Palisade on it. It'll hold your wheat to a better stand. It won't lodge as bad on you, and your neighbor will be like, what in the hell did you do to that wheat? It's the greenest wheat I've ever seen. So basically what you're doing is you're stiffening the stalk and the leaf, and I've heard that it makes those cells more rigid, and that's why you see the greener color. And it is a noticeable greener color. It's a couple of shades darker than what you can achieve with just just straight nitrogen. So yeah, if you want good standing wheat that's super green, spray Palisade. And it is going to cost you $11 an acre though, so can you justify that in your program? I don't know, but it's a good product. Question is, how many bushels are you guys getting per acre? So in Kentucky, I've heard yields from 50 to 110 really our yields have been really between 80 and 90 here on our farm. So I see areas in the field that are, that are over 100, but there's not a great deal of that. We had too much frost damage, and so most of our yields have run between 80 and 100. The question is, why is the best tractor ever made the 4020? So, if you're not a tractor fan, the 4020 is I think it was made in about 1965 or 1970 by John Deere, and really I don't know why that tractor is considered one of the greatest ever made. It is a beautiful tractor. I think it has a really good a track record with cost of ownership, really low cost of ownership. They really hold their value like the 8000 series. So I would guess that's why it's considered one of the most popular or greatest tractors of all time. I don't own one, so I would like to own a 4020, but they're pricey. This one is what is your favorite tractor from Cas AG? So it's been a long time since I've been in any of the Cas equipment. Been a few years. I think the last tractor I had was like a 305 Magnum or something like that, which was, it's a fairly new tractor. But I guess the tractor that I grew up on early, of course, I put a lot of hours in on the original Steigers, the Panthers and Cougars, which, they were their own brand, but they're purchased by Cas AG, and they produce the Steiger tractor now. I still have much love in my heart for a Steiger just because I put so many hours in on one. The other one would be the original International tractor, 1066, 1086. They're super uncomfortable. They rode like log wagons, but I put a ton of hours on them when I was a kid. Between the ages of 8 and 16, I probably logged about as many hours on those tractors as anybody in the nation. So Dad put me to work early. I've been farming ever since I was a little bitty boy. I can remember driving an old Johnny Popper tractor, and I would have to stand up because I couldn't reach the pedals and try to clutch the thing. So I've been on a tractor a long time, a lot longer than I probably should have been. But I'm still here. It says, I want to be a farmer. How do I do that? So, I think to be a farmer, you got to go to a farm first to learn what you're doing. If you haven't had a mom and dad or a mentor that showed you how, you need to learn first. You can't just, it would be, I'm not saying it's impossible to go out and start farming on your own, because nothing's impossible. But if you don't have any kind of background in it, seek out a farm. Just show the farmer or the farm manager you're willing to work. That'll go a long way to get you hired. You're going to start out doing a bunch of crap grunt work. A lot of that's designed just to see if you're going to stick around or not. If you're willing to do those hard jobs to begin with, eventually you'll get moved up to more and more difficult tasks. And if you perform those admirably, and you really want to know how to be a farmer, you'd be willing to do all those hard jobs, because a farmer is willing to do the worst job on his farm each and every day. And over a period of years, you'll learn, and then I think it's just purchase 1 acre or 1 or 2 acres and start gardening and selling your produce. And from there, you can springboard it to however much you're willing to work. So if you're willing to sacrifice everything, you can have a huge farm. And I truly believe that. It's work. It's hard work, sacrifice, and effort and knowledge will get you farming. And whether you're farming for yourself or for somebody that just because you're farming on somebody else's farm as a farmer, that doesn't make you any less of a farmer than me, just because I own a farm. I own a farm, but the guys that work here are just as much farmer as I am. So you don't necessarily have to own a farm to be a farmer. You just have to participate in the cultivation of agriculture. And once you do that, you can hold the title farmer. Question is, I'm an agriculture student. What should I study? I don't know. What's your passion? I would think that ag communication is a big deal right now. Like Clayton's hiring, so he needs people that know how to communicate, that know how to tell a story through the lens of a camera or through a microphone, and that's going to be a big need going forward. Also, the tech side of agriculture is huge and is only going to get bigger. We all need agronomists, so that's never going to end. And then there's a sales side to agriculture too. If your thing is selling, but you want to be involved in agriculture, there's that. So scientists, you name it. But I would think tech and communication are two of the biggest emerging markets in the agriculture market. There's probably going to be more need for those two roles above all the other fields. Research or agronomy or soil science or whatever, those two stick out to me. Question is, and this is a good one, how do you control ryegrass in your wheat? So if you're doing wheat in the south, Italian ryegrass is a big problem. We've actually had a problem here in the past. And the problem with Italian ryegrass is it's becoming resistant to Roundup. And although Roundup is not sprayed on wheat, when wheat is being established, a lot of times it's being no-tilled into our cornfields. And the Italian ryegrass is just beginning, it seeds itself in the fall, just like a wheat crop is seeded into the corn fodder or the bean fodder. And so when you make Roundup applications to clean the field up before the wheat is planted, you'll a lot of times miss the Italian ryegrass. So the way we've found to solve that, and this won't work every time, but it's worked pretty good for us, is we go out and we burn the field down for Moxone or Roundup really early before the Italian ryegrass is beginning to get established. And it's a really late fall annual, so really, I think late October, early November is when it's getting established in your field. If you're getting ready to seed your wheat at the end of September, 1st October, get your field clean, either with tillage or with chemicals. Plant your wheat, watch it very closely. As soon as it germinates, apply 3 ounces of zidua. And it's a pre-emerge grass, small seed grass chemical. And the wheat really needs to be germinated before you apply it. If it's germinated when you apply it, you won't damage your wheat crop, and it will almost 100% eliminate the Italian ryegrass in your field. I can't tell you won't have any escapes, but there will be very few escapes. It'll get the majority of the Italian ryegrass crop, and your fields will be super clean. Oh, another note on that zidua. If you weather is a factor. So if your wheat is germinated and it's already coming up, you can apply zidua after it's established in the field. If you need to wait till it's good and established, but after it's established, you can spray it over the top. The problem with that plan, to me, is you're going to let a little bit more of the ryegrass get established. So the key time to me is you watch your field super close, plant the wheat, wait for it to germinate. As soon as you know it's germinated, run out there and spray your zidua, and you'll solve your ryegrass problems. It says, how many acres of wheat do you have this year? We have to harvest about 1,200 this time. A couple hundred of that is Ez Rosbas, who is he's a guy that works here with us from Canada. He's got a crop of wheat as well, and we'll harvest him for his. And then we got a little rye to harvest as well. So we'll be on the combines for a few more days. Question is, what maturity of soybeans do you like to plant behind wheat? We personally like to use the late 4s. So currently we're out here planting the Asgrove 48X9, which is an Extend variety bean, and that's group 4.9. So very long maturity. It just gives them adequate time to get good and tall before harvest. And one of the problems with double crop beans is they tend to want to stay short, and then it's difficult to get them in the combine in a dry season. And with the longer maturity beans, the beans will get leggier, and if you get into a dry spell, they'll still be tall enough to roll into the bean head. So I don't know that they make a whole lot more than a 4.2, which is an earlier maturing 4.3 or something like that. But they are easier to get in the combine in a dry season, and that's why we tend to use those type of beans. They will also give you a little bit longer window to get rain, so you get a couple more weeks to receive a fall rain if you're into a dry spell, and we tend to do dry out here in July and August in Kentucky. I think that's most of the ones that are worth answering.